I saw a lot of action. We lost a lot of good friends over there. Whole crews that lived in the same barracks with us would be lost. And I'm a World War II veteran. I was in the United States Army Air Corps. I served on the B-29 bomb group in the Pacific.
And I was drafted, and I went into the service in 1950, I think it was. Yeah. And then I put a year here and a year overseas. I was occupational troops in Germany, and then we swung into the Korean deal. And a year later, I came back to this country, and I had a wife and a baby.
I was in total Marine Corps about a little over 2 years. I was in Vietnam for 11 months before I got wounded.
I served from 1961 to 1963 on active duty, and then until 1967 in the reserves.
At the time of my joining, I was 15 years old and 1 day. The way I got into the Navy at that age was I was living with a lot of people. My grandmother was head of the family, and she agreed to sign me in. "2,700 sailors were at Pearl Harbor that were killed. Most of them were on the Arizona. In fact, the bodies are still buried in the Arizona. We went to Pearl Harbor, but I couldn't stand there that long and watch it. You'd see the oil slicks rising out of the Arizona. That was too touching. The largest convoy I was in was about 136 ships. Of course, some of those were naval vessels, some British naval vessels, some American naval vessels, and mostly supply ships, cargo ships. After that tour of duty, we were in several small skirmishes, mainly attacks on German ships, sinking convoy ships, cargo ships, that type of thing. Nothing, no big skirmishes.
We were stationed in the Marianas. That's a string of islands. Saipan, Tinian, and Guam. And we had bomb groups there. We had a total, we could get 500 airplanes in an all-out mission. We were 1,500 miles to Japan. So up 1,500 miles, back 1,500 miles, all over water.
When you're in a military situation, you go in and you take a given area by force, then you secure that area, and then you move on and take another area. This is as they did it in World War II. Started with Omaha Beach, for instance, and you drove across France and then through the Battle of the Bulge, and then you secured that area and move across into Germany.
On June 6, 1944, I was in the Omaha Beach invasion, the Normandy invasion. I was at a sector called Omaha Beach. There were other beaches there, Utah, Gold, and various other areas that Canadians and British landed in, and also Australians, which a lot of people don't realize. My job was to bring the soldiers to shore, and I was driving a Higgins boat which has 2,000 horsepower. It's one of those boats that the front bow drops down and the soldiers disembark. On my first run, I had 33 soldiers on, and when I dropped the bow, they ran ashore, and as they were running ashore, I don't even know where it came from, a German machine gun got them all. One of them fell across the bow, and I had to go, and I stuck my finger in his carotid artery because we were trained to do that. And I then had to, unfortunately, put the body into the water. It wasn't deep, but he had probably 60, 70 pounds of equipment on his knapsack.
We probably had, out of the 32 missions, we probably had 10 daylight missions. But we didn't worry too much about the fighters and the Parker bombs and the kamikazes. We worried about the flak. We couldn't fight back with the flak. We could shoot the fighters down, but we couldn't you just had to sit there and take it, especially if you were on your bomb run, because you couldn't take evasive action.
We lost Vietnam, and it angers me a lot when they treated the Vietnam vets so badly when they came back. That was a tragedy. That's a black mark on this country. Those vets were not treated properly, given the respect that they were due.
They weren't treated properly, but a lot of it they might have brought on themselves because they had a lot of problems, mental problems, drug problems. But I was against the Vietnam War from the beginning. And finally, a couple of people said to me when it ended, "You were right. We never should have been over there." But same as this one, I don't think we should be over there now either, but we're there. But they treated us okay when we got home.
In regards to battles, it was constant all the time. We were on an outpost, which was probably 20, 30 miles from the base. And so we were being hit pretty much every night. It was just constant. There were mortar attacks and small arms fire, that type of thing. So we were constantly getting hit. I had some of my troops that were wounded, and I tried to go out, and I went out there trying to help them, and that's when I got wounded, got shot. Took 3 hits.
Even though we interfered there, they were still taken over by Ho Chi Minh and his subordinates, and the country is prospering now. If we didn't go there, the same thing would have happened without 53,000 Americans being killed and injured.
In Vietnam, you'd move in, you'd take an area, you'd clear it of the Viet Cong, and then you would pull out of there and let them come back in again, like the tide comes back into the beach. It's not a war that's fought to win. It's a war of attrition whereby the enemy tries to suck the blood out of you, is what it amounts to. And eventually, they get the public starts to say, let's move, let's get out of here. The same thing is happening in Iraq. The war in Iraq, whether you like it or not, is something that we're into. It, unfortunately, is much like the Vietnam War. It's not a war that is fought to win. It's like a guerrilla action.
So I've kept in touch with my crew members, and we had a reunion 40 years after the war, and we had 9 out of 11 show up at the reunion. And we're down to 6 survivors now, and we're losing World War II veterans all the time. It was a terrible war, but it had to be done. It was a different war than what they're fighting today. At least we came to a conclusion. The Korean War was a tie, I guess, and Vietnam didn't decide anything. But I hope this war ends that we're in now pretty soon, and get those young boys home.